The root behind the congestion pricing is that Governor Hochul is actually a sewer rat trying to increase subway ridership so that more snacks will be left for her brethren. This anchor wonders, where are the white women screaming about how they will now be forced to ride the subway and feel unsafe? And how much time do I have to spend on the subway like this? And exclusive coverage from just beyond the congestion relief zone.
I'm here on the outskirts of the congestion relief zone. The traffic here is unbearable and I have never witnessed anything like this. This area is going to need government congested relief.
Next, the FBI says that the New Orleans terrorist was working alone, with the FBI promising complete transparency as they continue to make it up. And why some are saying this is just a false flag attack to take away American trucks.
I'll tell you, it's a government psyop to try and take away our trucks. It's the same as what they did with the terrorists when they had the bombs and the underwear. And then now you go through TSA, everyone wants to grab your junk. They're all trying to touch it. And that's what they're trying to do to the trucks over here. They're going to explode the trucks and then tell us because of them terrorists we can't have no trucks no more. I ain't standing for it. I'm an American. I'm going to keep my truck. Don't let them convince you the terrorists got trucks.
The FBI has found the suspect's home and allowed one journalist to tour it with most of the evidence still intact, with little removed from the house other than the kitchen snacks. As to what this Quran-reading terrorist liked to eat will remain a mystery. As this is an ongoing story, we get an exclusive look at the inner workings from the government news tunnel that made this up.
And we should see her muff, like pulled up. I'm talking reverse thong, cactus hairs, camel toe size of the ear canal. Enough to distract you from the fact that this makes no sense.
You can see that it's been clearly destroyed, the door at least.
That is not enough muff.
I think it's practically muffless.
We've seen more muff on a trained trucker than this.
Next, our chef's pick for New York City's top place for eating pigeon. Next, the drunk bitches explaining how the world works to Donald Trump. And lastly, the CEOs forced to contend with their companies having lower market caps than Fartcoin.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lightly hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. I am here live from Greenland, a part of the Trump expedition as we travel the globe and we try and claim some rocks before China can get its hands on it. We're working hard in 2024. Not only am I putting out intros of high quality like that, but we're part of the Trump administration now, and we've got the inside ticket to follow all of their activities. And if you weren't aware of all the geopolitics coming into 2025, Russia, they weren't supposed to touch Ukraine. They weren't supposed to do that. Nobody's supposed to be touching or seizing property from their neighbors. We all know that. No one's supposed to do that. China's over there, and it's just looking at Taiwan. I don't know if you know this, but they line up Chinese people at their border, and they just mean mug Taiwan to let them know what's up. They let them know that they're coming. Every once in a while, a couple swimmers will get into the water. They'll put some shark fins on. They'll play the Jaws music really, really loud, kind of like in that scene from... I should stop trying to reference things because that's when my brain fails me. I was flowing there, and then I tried to recall a name, and my brain went all dementia Joe Biden. Anyways, so now what Trump's doing is he's letting them know. He's letting the world know what's up. Listen, I'm going to go forcibly buy myself Greenland, plant a big old flag in it, do some real Donald Trump shit. I'm closing deals. I barely even started the job. I'm getting some of the best real estate that's ever existed. He's going to go take over the Panama Canal. The Jews are going to totally flatten Gaza so that they get their own canal going. And there you go. That's the geopolitical report for 2025. And let's get into it because I do have quite a bit of of news that I'd like to cover for you guys. And the first is, for anyone that doesn't have plans for this weekend, I would like to remind you that Jimmy's Carter Body is still on tour. And so if you didn't have any plans, you can watch this casket in action as it tours the country, makes the last couple of visits. I remember being back in 8th grade, I think Reagan died, and I just watched footage of them taking him up and down a staircase, up and down a staircase, up and down. Do they actually keep the bodies in this casket? The corpses need to get one last view of the Washington, D.C. that they love so very much. But anyways, maybe you want to get in early for the inauguration. You don't have much going on. It's 2025. You're still unemployed. You're able to watch the Run Your Mouth podcast when it goes up randomly at 10:45 in the morning. And so if you were looking for something to do, reminder that the Jimmy Carter Corpse is still on tour. And also, listen, it's a new year. I'm a full-time broadcaster now. I quit my job so we could be bringing you even more Run Your Mouth, bringing you even more intros. And as a gift for the fans of the show, later in the week, I will be running the thingy thing. I will be running a support group for people that really like going into open doors. So if you're out there and this is something that you struggle with, you're planning on going to the inauguration, you don't have the self-control to not go into doors that were left open. And listen, no matter how inviting it seems, you're imposing on that government building. Even if the doorman opens it up for you and tries to tell you, come inside, we've got great stuff in here, don't fall for it. That government building does not want you inside of it. So, come join us for our support group of people who are inquisitive and they go, free? Doors open? I should be checking this out. Don't be one of those people. So I will be running a support group. I got at-home exercises for not walking through open doors. I'm a curious person myself, but you don't want to find yourself on the wrong side of an open government door. And on that note, if you are planning on going to the inauguration, I do have some suggestions for things you could do to keep yourself out of trouble. Firstly, maybe you just want to get a t-shirt that says, "He pushed me." So that way, if in 4 years from now there's footage of you inside of a building with a massive amount of people behind you, or one of the old "I'm with stupid" shirts, but it just points to "I'm with the Fed," and you just plan ahead. Plan ahead. If you find yourself on the wrong side of an open government door, maybe we'll have a hotline with lawyers who can help guide you through the situation. Anyways, for everyone who listens to this show, by the way, on all the various platforms, because we do go live to a couple places. And I want to let you guys know I'm putting up more sketches, and the current home, or the best place probably to be, firstly, if you don't already follow me on social media, Robbie the Fire, all one word, posting on Twitter all the time. I post a lot of topics that don't end up making it to the Run Your Mouth podcast. And then Instagram seems to be the hot thing. To go, if you've never followed them, even if you pay no attention to them, do it, so then I can have more numbers there and people think that I'm more important. Or maybe you just want to go buy me a whole bunch of followers from China so that the New York Comedy Clubs go, wow, this guy's got so many followers, I bet I'll sell a bunch of tickets. Anyways, follow me, but the Robbie the Fire channel, we've got a lot of sketches. We're pumping out the sketches. So if you're one of these loyal listeners on Spotify, where I think have the largest audience, and I will continue to be posting the video on Spotify, come follow the channel over at Robbie the Fire so you don't miss out on all the sketch action. All right, let's get into the news. First up, all right, I got a hot take. We all know that they tried to kill Donald Trump. We all watched that. They tried twice and they failed. I got a hot take here. I think they're going to have to try and take out Kamala Harris next. And I think it's because the lady is such a stupid liability and is such a blunder to the Democratic Party and the way that they lied to all of our faces and pretended like she was a coherent person. And, Joe Biden, they kept in the basement for a while. Then they couldn't keep him in the basement. And they pretended like he didn't have dementia all the way up until the debates. And then it became obvious, but at least he got older. And so we could pretend, okay, he wasn't that bad when he started. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, every time they took away the teleprompter was pretty bad. And she might have had one of her worst Kamala Harris moments ever. Something that even a second grader probably could have performed this task without making this blunder, and showcases the ineptitude we will continue to see from her for years to come. Producer man, roll the tape.
Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the...
Did you guys catch it? I'll play it again.
Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. Pledge allegiance to the United States.
She did that thing when you're singing in the car and you realize you don't have the lyrics, so you just kind of mumble. The lady does not know the Pledge of Allegiance. And she didn't think. She didn't even have that moment of, oh, what do I have to do today in front of the cameras? Oh, can we go over that? I don't actually know that. Maybe I should look that one over because I don't actually know it. I think we should all contribute and get her a sketch. I mean, not a sketch show. We should get this lady a talk show. Kamala Harris, unteleprompted. And it could be like a Borat environment where we just pay the audience to sit there and clap. Nobody gives her any instructions. We go, no, you've got this, and just see how much stupidity falls out of this lady's mouth as a tribute to the era of ESG scores woke and hire all women, as a tribute to what we had to go through over the last couple of years as a, almost as a trophy of why you shouldn't just listen to government, as a trophy of what the COVID era was, of what the woke environment was. Let's keep Kamala Harris on television for the next 50 years and, just really showcase how much of a moron she actually was. Oh, speaking of getting a fan fund for what would be fun ideas, you know how at the beginning of stock market days, they ring the bell and they do it ceremony. It's a big ceremony over at Wall Street. Even sometimes people will come in and they'll, they get the honor of ringing of the bell. So there's talk that Donald Trump is going to release some of these January 6th political prisoners. I hope he makes good on that, particularly anyone who didn't engage in violence that day. And let's release all the tapes. Let's get them out of jail. Talk about cleansing ourselves. Fauci needs to be prosecuted. Kamala Harris needs to have a permanent TV show without a teleprompter or writers where we just encourage her to talk from her heart. And all the January 6th political prisoners hopefully will be released, and we'll get to see the footage of what all of those people actually did on those days, what kind of violence they participated in, and perhaps the American people will become aware of just how much the government lies to them. But on that note, I think, remember that guy who farted on Nancy Pelosi's desk? Can we buy him the house next to Nancy Pelosi's? And instead of a stock market bell on a daily morning, can we start every day of our lives with the farting on Nancy Pelosi's lawn? The ceremonial farting on Nancy Pelosi's lawn. Tell me you wouldn't watch that show to start every single day of your life. We could give that guy just a rundown of what the top 10 news stories are, the same way you could turn into, you give us 15 minutes, we'll give you the world. Whatever that show was on maybe 10-10 Wins. Just get that guy to read off the news. It'd be better than my intros. And we'll feed him beans all night. We'll get him all gassed up. We'll train him on how to fart on command. And we'll have this ceremonial farting on Nancy Pelosi's lawn that we can all start our work days with. All right, let's take a couple comments because, it's explosive here. For 11 in the morning, we apparently have a fair amount of fans with free time to catch the show whenever it goes live. Starting with Tarman, just giving me the thumbs up with a big Chinese smiley face. We've got Mustard Greens, Green Screen Land. There's no green screen here. These are genuine light rays from the sun. This is how I tan my face as I get myself right into this is the most direct line of sun between us and the good Lord is out in Greenland, and that's actually why people vacation in this area. Now it just looks like I'm taking a shit. All right, moving forward. Eddie Grimm wishing me a good morning. Thank you, sir. Dildo Faggins, New Year's and Robbie is up early. That is accurate. Jess Mann, Exploding Honkers. I give that porn video an 8.5 out of 10. That seems like a fair ranking. I'd love more details on how it got the 0.5. Gestanken. I vote for Kamala to sing the anthem. I think you meant sing. at the Super Bowl. That could be a fun one. And lastly, D. Cooper, that was RoboCop. All right, what else do I have here? Oh, yeah, I got more on Kamala Harris. Before we do, YoKratom.com, home of the $6 kilo, only place in the entire world. An entire kilo of Kratom for just $60. Congress ratifies Trump's win in peaceful session, unlike 21. And here's where the Democrats are at now. They're trying to be better sore losers, where Kamala Harris still shows up. She does the I wouldn't do that job. You got to show up, and she does it in the weirdest way. We're going to play the video where she can't just say, I lost and I certify it. So you got to go, in the election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, as if she's not Kamala Harris. And then she also still has to pretend like she reads and she knows what pieces of paper look like and she knows how numbers work. It's a whole to-do. She should have just quit and been like, yeah, I'm not going to take part in my own humiliation ritual. But it's not a humiliation ritual because these people like being losers. And not only do they like being losers, they want you to celebrate them for it. They want their participation trophies. And you know what? If nobody stormed the Capitol, did they even really care? I mean, talk about how bad polling is. If you want proof of the fact that people in this country actually support and like you, I think the most accurate metric is how many people will show up to Washington, D.C. and storm the Capitol on your behalf. And the fact that nobody cares that you lost, nobody took enough interest in this to storm the Capitol. You guys are trying to showcase, oh, look, I know we lost, but we're actually the adults here. And that's why really you guys should still like us more, because even though we lost, we're going to do it in the most civil way. And that's because you didn't have any passion. There was nothing there. That's what this is showcasing, is the fact that nobody in the country actually cared to storm a Capitol on your behalf because there never was any actual support behind you. And so what, you're going to shame the guy because people actually had passion for him because they stole an election from him? If anything, that's the proof of the fact that the election was stolen, was that there was enough passion that people would show up on his behalf. And what, you guys are just going to play this card of, well, we're the real adults. I mean, I know that we lost and nobody likes us and we have bad policies, but when it comes to these dramatic displays of the way government should operate, remember, we're able to keep it boring and civil. And here we go, Kamala Harris having to take part in her own ritual of announcing that she lost the election. Doesn't look like a particularly happy camper, but I guess they did it before she could start drinking for the day. Roll the tape.
Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. Pledge allegiance.
That's the same video, but we can watch her be an idiot again. That's just as fun. All right, what do we got next? I got other topics coming at you guys. Starting with here was where the exploding honkers came from. Shocking images show women 19 whose breasts quadrupled after taking the Pfizer COVID vaccine, and finally a vaccine injury that we can get behind. Isn't it great? No vaccine injuries. Nothing could ever happen. This thing was rigorously tested. But then this one, they'll put this one in the paper. They'll let you know, yeah, but there's a 1 in, I guess, 1 million chance you'll get giant tits. And the disease, you wouldn't believe what the name of this disease is. Apparently it's called hypertrophy, because even scientists are like, that's too much trophy. Nobody should get that much trophy. I mean, if this starts happening to more women, and Fauci makes a comeback and he's just high-fiving television. I told you guys to follow the science. It was good science. Look at what the science is doing for you now. I wasn't lying. I just turned him into Trump. We haven't done the Fauci in a while. And for those that aren't aware of this, both acid and Viagra, I believe, were mistakes. At one point in time, some guy was trying to do some chemistry, walked out, started tripping balls, and he's like, wow, that was pretty fun. I've actually never done acid. Maybe we'll add it to the 2026 to-do list. 2020. By the way, this is the, if these dots are the aliens who have come to Greenland as well, which is why it's so important that Donald Trump take over Greenland so we can get better eyes on the Greenlands who bring the sunspots that can cure your cancer. That's just science for you. If you guys didn't know why Donald Trump was that interested in Greenland or the corrections that I need to make to the green screen. But let's not spend the next 10 minutes with ADD distraction like a child in the backseat of a car, putting his finger in the moisture. There's no reason to get distracted by what? A little piece of light that's coming through? I mean, I'm an adult. I've spent week putting together news stories that you guys are interested in. I'm not just going to ADD a little bit of flashing light like a stupid cat. All right. Anyways, both acid and Viagra were lab accidents. I think they were trying to solve for high cholesterol, and then some guy walked out of a lab and he's like, "Holy shit, that's a nice erection." And then the other scientists were like, "What the fuck did you just take? I want some of that." And so who knows? Maybe this will be the positive storyline. Except it's not actually. I like thin. I mean, those could be fun for an evening, but you know, I like a. I'm not anti big tits, but I kind of like a thin lady. And you know, once that becomes popular, the celebrities will just double Ozempic. They'll go back to statues in the streets of people with little dicks. No matter if scientists figures out for us all to have giant dicks and big tits, then you're going to end up with celebrities with tiny dicks and thin, flat chests, and somehow, you know, the way that they sold the trans thing, which I guess they weren't that successful in selling that. So who knows? Maybe big tits in the future, and Pfizer will actually have its new product. Can you imagine that Bura guy, the head of Pfizer, going, "All right, listen, we admit it now, there were some vaccine injuries, but we figured out how to synthesize the vaccine injuries so that it can do this for your tits," and then their stock starts skyrocketing again. All right, what else we got? We got a lot of news to cover. Fetterman is thinking about switching over to the Republicans, and the Democrats can keep him. Not that I am a conservative, but, you know, let's keep the biggest and most obvious dumbasses on the Democratic side. I don't need Fetterman fumbling, mumbling, and, you know, totally mentally incapacitated people. That's a Democratic thing. That's not what the Republicans stand for. People whose one job is supposed to be talking, who are incapable of talking, that's a Democrat thing. That's not a Republic thing. So let's keep the incoherent dumbasses on the Democratic side, and the Republicans should get up and they should say that. They should flip the language and go, "You know what? We respect the dignity of the office and the requirements of this job. And so people that can only fit in sweatpants and cannot talk like human beings are unwelcome in the Republican Party." But, you know, the Democratic Party is willing to is the better home for if you are unable to verbalize thoughts and are mentally incapacitated. They platformed a president for 4 years with dementia and Kamala Harris, and so you got a home with the Democratic Party. Next is, you know, there's all this talk about how alcohol apparently causes cancer. And you know what, scientists, you can just keep that one to yourself. I like being lied to. I did a joke about that on my comedy special. You guys can go check that out. Send it to 4 friends. It's like 35,000 people. I'd like to get 200,000 views on that. I know I'm a needy person. I'm trying to get you to subscribe. Robbie the Fire, all one word. Twitter and Instagram, and also the YouTube account, so you can check out more of these fine sketches. And go log into your friends' accounts. All of you guys have friends. You visit them every once in a while. The first thing you do when you get to a friend's house is you should go over there, log into their YouTube account, and just press play. If the 30,000 people that watch that each went to a friend's house and just press play, I can look at it and go, "Wow, I hit my 200,000 goal." And that's a nice gift to me. You give a nice gift. I flew all the way to Greenland just so I could do coverage of the rocks that we're trying to make sure that China doesn't get its hands on. The least you can do is go over to your friend's house, and you don't even have to show them the special. You just got to leave it playing in the background so that at some point I can go, "Wow, there was 200,000 views on that." Anyways, science, can you just keep it to yourselves? We're going to drink anyways. It's so fine. You get cancer from something no matter what. What, am I supposed to be sober and just aware of the fact that I'm going to get cancer? What am I supposed to just get more of the calories from the cake and then be more aware of the fact that I'm getting cancer? All right? Just keep it to yourselves. We're going to die. Death is coming. And at least drinking your way there casually along the way is probably, like, I mean, how much cancer? Is it cancer sooner than I'm going to get the other cancers? It's not enough information at this point to just be like, yeah, that's going to give you cancer. Over a long enough timeline, if you live long enough, something's going to give you cancer. Can I go from liver cancer instead of prostate cancer and at least be peeing real good and coming until I'm dead? It's not enough information to just go, hey, this is going to give you cancer. What kind of cancer? When am I going to get the cancer? I mean, does the alcohol clear out other cancers? I'm going to go with that. You'll get cancer from alcohol at some point. But at least you don't have to be sober and aware of the cancer, and it will clean some of the other worser cancers out on the way there. Okay, and now just I listen. We don't endorse terrorism on this program, if that wasn't obvious. And, don't go out there. Don't be exploding your trucks. Don't be trying to kill people. But if you are going to engage in terrorism, can you at least leave better notes? Just leave some notes and go, Ray Epps was icing me. I couldn't get my marching orders from the FBI, and so I went AWOL. Can you leave fun notes? As everyone goes nuts and they try and concoct these stories and everyone tries to fit the things into their narrative, instead of proclaiming ISIS, that you're doing it on behalf of ISIS, just blame some government agency. Tell the world that you were plowing Paul Pelosi's asshole, and that you had fallen madly in love and he wouldn't get back to you, or at least do a favor to all the other dudes out there and just leave a note and wrote, "Child support broke me. I'm protesting child support." I mean, listen, ISIS, they don't need more terrorist endorsement. Everyone gets it. Everyone's aware of the brand. Everyone's afraid of them anyways. So if you're already going to go through with these horrible attacks and kill innocent civilians, at least maybe you could use your terrorism to do a little bit more good. And I'm sure that this wasn't your guys' takeaway when you saw the guy's home. But first I was like, man, that's a nice pull-up bar. That's not bad. I was like, that thing looks stable. And then the other thing I was realizing was trailer life doesn't look that bad. You know, I'm out here thinking I'm living a glorious lifestyle in my one-bedroom apartment. And then you see the inside of the trailer. He's got hardwood floors. He seems to have room for 3 standing desks. He's got a nice kitchen. That's what I learned from this incident is, man, there's some places in the car. I should probably just come out to Greenland before Donald Trump buys the thing. Throw down some trailer. Maybe you're able to purchase the mineral rights. And then you can get on the news and go, Donald Trump stole my mineral rights. All right, some other quick topics. We got a lot of news. There's a lot of show going on right now. Let's start with the congestion pricing in New York City, which I would like to preface this, that I'm able to work the hours that I'd like to work for the most part. I can travel into New York City. I don't do that many spots as it is. And so, you know what? I can start working my life around this where I just go in after 9 p.m. and this will cost me all of $2. But I'm going to still yell with vengeance about this. So just know that the next 4 minutes of me getting up angry and upset is a very Jewy rant over what will be all of $2 to me, if even. I mean, we're talking about if I went in 5 nights a week, we're going to be talking about a rant about over $10. But nonetheless, I am outraged about this, and I will spend the next 5 minutes yelling about the horrors of congestion pricing, which might cost me all of $10. But let's get into it. Let's get into the stupidity of congestion pricing and why this Hochul lady should be absolutely ashamed of herself. And I don't think it's going to stand. I think they're going to have to get away with it and come up with new ways to try and force people out of New York City. Try and make New York City so unlivable that more and more businesses and wealthy individuals just leave it. And then all of a sudden, the only people that they have to tax are the illegal immigrants. That's going to be their next thing, is coming forward and going, all right, listen, all this money that we're spending on hotel rooms for these illegal immigrants, I think we need to legalize them and give them green cards because they're the only person left to tax. So anyways, let's get into the congestion pricing and why it's such an outrage. So firstly, if you're coming in before 9 p.m., it's an additional $9. That I believe. They make it very complicated. It's like reading those alternate side parking signs where you're like, how am I back taking the SATs? Am I a commercial vehicle? Is after 12 o'clock considered Wednesday or Thursday? Am I within the zone? Like, I mean, it's literally like taking the SATs where you're like, I don't think my reading comprehension is this bad. Why does this question seem so tricky to me? Am I a dumbass, or do they write weird questions? Does everyone understand how this sign works? You almost want to get a whole bunch of people to go together and be like, I'm not that much of a dumbass, but I don't understand this sign. Does anyone understand this sign? Commercial vehicles only by permit. Anyways, so I believe it's $9 if you're going into the congestion relief area. Not the, hey, we're going to charge you more for so that we can fix the subway area. They don't want to call it that. They're going to call it congestion relief. But okay, so firstly, it's not like just driving into New York City is free. Wherever you're coming from, you probably already paid a $15 toll. Unless, listen, I know the tollless route. It's the 3rd Avenue Bridge, and you got to sit through more traffic. But if you come through any other road into New York City, you've already paid a toll. And not only have you paid a toll, on top of the toll, you're paying for your gas. And if you're out in New York City, you're probably spending some money somewhere along the way. So now it's the price of an additional toll just to be under 60th Street in New York City. And so there's a couple things about this that's irritating. Is firstly, you're throwing another expense at people, but there's also a non-reliability of lifestyle because of government changes. So like you could have actually priced out where you want to live and the ability to commute to your job, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they make these kind of changes to you. And for a lot of people, and it's funny hearing all the firefighters and the city workers complain, they're the only ones who are getting Jewy about it. People are going to die. They're going to die. We can't get to our stations now. We can't transfer people between stations. It seems like, listen, they protect their own and they'll work out the details of all the people that they can't have in the newspapers complaining about this. They want to fleece people like me and like you. But there's people in the protected classes, your government workers, your school teachers, your people that come outside, that everyone in New York City wants to have their jobs. What will end up being the camel that breaks the back on this is when all the people who already have their overpriced apartments and are barely getting by in New York City see larger charges on every single delivery that's coming in, and everything in the city is more expensive because of the commercial vehicles and what they have to pay for them, and then everyone's upset about it and it has to go away. But this is what's also obnoxious, is that instead of dealing, government does things that like in terms of working with the unions, in terms of overspending, which causes inflation, and then in having to deal with the problems that they've created, the solution is always, shit, things got more expensive. I guess we're going to have to tax you more. And it's never addressing any of the issues there. And so more and more people don't want to take the subway because it's disgusting, unreliable, and not safe. And when it comes to public transportation, such as taking the train, I used to take the train into New York City every single day. Earlier in my comedy career, every single night I took the train into New York City. And let me tell you, Grand Central late at night is absolutely miserable because they have such a homeless problem. They have to shut down the entire place and make it that there's nowhere to sit and that there's no clean bathroom. And so instead of going, why is it that so many people don't want to take the train? Is it because the train has become a filthy, homeless-ridden cesspool that no one feels comfortable being at late at night? It's like every other business in the world. When the business starts doing poorly, sometimes you have to go to your investors and go, hey, we have to improve our product. People don't like our product. And so instead of them looking at the situation and going, all right, the subway ridership is down. And firstly, if you wanted to make subways more profitable, you probably got to go back to the unions and cut better contracts. You probably have to figure out how to actually run a profitable business, because I'm sure if we looked at the numbers, by the way, if you ever look at the numbers of just the George Washington Bridge, somebody in the chat right now, if you guys can go and look up how much the daily profits of the George Washington Bridge are. It's not hard math. It's the toll price and average traffic on the George Washington Bridge. And tell me we couldn't hire, if roads could be done by private investors, that there wouldn't be 15 more George Washington bridges literally tomorrow with the amount of money that is just made off the George Washington Bridge alone. But somehow the MTA with the Easy Pass system, that if you change credit cards and you don't update immediately, you'll get hit with your $60 toll fee. Even if your thing replenishes, they'll rape you up your ass. But anyways, let's stay focused here. Instead of trying to improve the other products or figure out how do we make these trains better so that more people would like to take the trains. Like, I remember the Giant Stadium traffic got really bad, and so they built a train station there, and they tried to figure out how do we make this shuttle service so good that less people want to drive. And that's the kind of investment that you guys can make. You got to talk to people from Connecticut and New Jersey. What do we have to do that more of you guys would like to take the trains? Do we have to have the trains cleaner? Do we have to have them more available? Do we have to make it that when you get into New York City, it's a little bit more like an airport and there aren't just homeless people, 0 bathrooms, 0 place to sit down and wait on your train? Do we have to create better commuting centers outside of New York City so you can more easily park your car somewhere and then take public transportation in? Is there a cost at which, is there a place in a half hour outside of New York City that if we built the world's biggest parking lot and you could park there for free and there was a shuttle train into New York City, how many people might take that train instead if we could keep it clean? I mean, that's the way most businesses would work. And there's plenty of profits on the table if you actually want to offer people a good alternative. There's plenty of money on the table for you guys if you actually wanted to improve your other products. But instead, what you're trying to do is fleece the drivers, who, a lot of which are working jobs, and they've figured out a lifestyle that includes having to sit through the New York City grid of traffic, which is a nightmare. And if you've made that decision, it's because the public transportation is so unbearably bad that you'd rather sit in your car and honk your horn, be absolutely on alert for 2 hours, have to cut everybody off to get every little inch of space. New York City driving's not a good time. The only reason you do it is because the subway system is so unreliable that you don't want to just sit around and go, hey, is that train ever going to show up? You don't want to show up to a station at 11 p.m. and then find out, oh, I've got to walk 3 miles in that direction. Not 3 miles, but 2 miles because this subway station doesn't actually run the train that I need. Zero conversation about actually improving the product, but instead just going, oh, you know what? This thing that we're going to make the alternative product more expensive so that maybe we can bring in more revenue, to just get lost in the shuffle of the nonsense of the unions and everything else that makes the other product inefficient and unable to improve. All right. I got more on this. Oh, the other way to solve this is we just having an invasion of the uptown neighborhoods. When the Upper West Side becomes unbearable, when the Upper East Side becomes unbearable because everyone's parking their cars there to avoid the congestion tolling this. My guess is, who knows? Maybe it's one of those things you implement and you get a bunch of Jews like me complaining over $2 when it first starts out, and then eventually they get rid of it. But my guess is there's going to be so many unthought out problems of people making changes in their lifestyles of not coming into New York City or parking in the other areas. And the entire thing, as I said, we don't have to be cartoonishly circular here. Doesn't make sense. Be like every other business in the world. There's enough profits on the table here, and figure out how to improve the other products that people actually want to use them. Next thing that I'd like to talk about is all right. I watched the interview on there was that guy who claimed that he got a letter from the dude who blew up his Tesla, and went on some other the Sean Ryan podcast, and I'm not quite calling bullshit because I wasn't entirely listening. Enough people sent it to me and said that you have to check this out. And partly as I was annoyed by the way that they kept teasing the story and really milking it. But I just want to throw it out there that perhaps the CIA and the deep state is evolving in terms of the way that they bring us information. And as CNN and Fox News and these networks are no longer relevant, and we enjoyed a period of time of alternative media, such as myself, going, hey, I'll never have a job on those networks, but I'd love to rant and rave about these topics. I'd love to crack some funnies about the things that are going on in the news. What, do I need a job on the Tonight Show to write some topical jokes? Fuck that. I'll go directly to the internet. And so we lived in an environment for a little while where the CIA kooks were not particularly good at the new media, except Donald Trump did just in part win an election because he did a better job of being able to go out on podcasts. But when people worked in the intelligence agencies, continue to still have ties to the intelligence agencies, and pitch what kind of sounds like intelligence agency narratives, I wonder if perhaps the CIA and the feds are evolving to new media and figuring out better ways to try and bring their storylines to the internet. So I'm not familiar entirely with the show. I was listening with half an ear, which is about all of the focus that I can give to things. Really a quarter of an ear, because you're kind of half listening while you're doing other things and pacing around the apartment. And I'm just wondering if our bullshit detectors are going to have to get even better. Because before, you could just go, all right, this is what the New York Times is telling me, so this is the bullshit that they're pitching. Because they would, in other words, go onto platforms and go, in other words, it could have called it the Bullshit Times, and then in an article going, here's what the feds would like you to know about this topic, and here's what the Bullshit Times is letting you know, and sometimes it was accurate, but it was coming from the Bullshit Times, so you had to, have an open eye and go, oh, all right, here's the bullshit that they want me to know. Same with CNN. You go on CNN and you'd see the director from the CIA on there, and you go, all right, look, the cable bullshit network is telling me this, so here's the bullshit that's coming from the spooks. But I think they're starting to evolve, and so you're going to see more of the spooks on the podcast, and you'll be like, well, podcast, that used to be the place where I got the alternative stuff that was criticizing that stuff, and I think they're evolving, and I think they're learning. I'm not calling 100% bullshit on that. I'm calling, hey, I think the system's actually evolving, and we're all going to have to be a little bit more attentive. On that note, is Elon Musk just like, in the past, talk about the game evolving. And if you really want to go down the archives of the Run Your Mouths, and you want to go down the archives of the part of the problems, I have certainly criticized Elon Musk before and questioned to what extent he's just a billionaire relying on government credits playing the same game as everybody else. But Elon Musk did come around and he purchased himself Twitter, restored free speech because, listen, people like truth. They like actual information. They like free speech. And so when all the platforms start removing that, and then you get one platform with a much better business that everyone actually likes, it kind of forces the other ones to improve their product. And the other ones were all working in cahoots where they're like, we're going to censor all this information. We're going to take all of it down. All the news networks were in cahoots. Everyone was in cahoots. And so really it just takes one objector that goes, no, I'm going to give you guys a free speech. And so that was very cool of Elon Musk. And Elon Musk does have cool moments. And so sometimes you win him over. But in terms of this new age of new media, I do wonder, in the past it was like Jeff Bezos, he bought himself the Washington Post, and, there's the billionaire that owned Fox News. It was a way of trying to keep your billionaire status in good grace with the people, was purchasing yourself the media companies. And I don't know to what extent they actually sat there and said, hey, don't say anything bad about me and write a front page article about my large penis and all the money that I'm giving to charity, and how this Spanish lady with giant fake tits says that I was the best lover that she's ever had. I don't know if you guys ever read that article in the Washington Post, but there was like a whole year where that was front page. Look at the steroids that Jeff Bezos has taken and how much better he looks and how satisfied his Spanish lover is with his newly minted Amazon penis. And look at his boat that's so big that the bridge they're going to have to explode and rebuild a bridge just so that Jeff Bezos can have his giant, awesome boat. Did you guys read that article when it was on the front page of the Washington Post? And so, listen, it's not exactly a new strategy for billionaires to come around and try and purchase media organizations. So, or to throw their name up on universities and throw their names up on all sorts of places to make you think that they're a man of the people. So I just wonder if in the new media environment, if maybe Elon Musk, listen, you can be a good billionaire. You can absolutely be a good billionaire. You can be a person that created a product and service for the market so good that you made a shit ton of money, and God bless you if you're that person. And if you want proof of those people, I mean, a lot of the people, like if Joe Rogan ends his career as a billionaire, which I bet he's probably close to, it's because he was such a good broadcaster and he brought that much value to the market. Or if you were to create the high energy reducing trees that everyone's so concerned with carbon in the environment, and you're better at removing carbon from the environment, you earned your billion fair and square. That's how I'm going to make my first billion. But then there's also the people that are just in the game of trying to, rig government processes, Larry Finking their way through life. Let's try and create some laws and legislations so that unprofitable businesses can print me money. We've spoken enough about that racket. So anyways, I wonder to what extent through Twitter, he's just kind of winning the new media game. All right, let's take a moment and thank one of our other sponsors, Sheath. The only place in the world where you can get the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. If you've never put your nutsack and your wiener through a sheath hole, you don't know what you've been missing out on. You've got virgin. You're practically a virgin. And that, have you ever had a conversation when you first started getting laid and you were telling your other friends that hadn't gotten laid yet that they were children because they hadn't experienced real life, because they didn't know what was on the other side? They didn't know the clarity that came with busting a nut inside of a lady. And you're like, you're like Adam and Eve, just walking around with no idea that you're naked. You don't even understand what life is really about. You're a person that's never tried mushrooms and seen the clarity of the universe, which really, it only gives you once or twice. But anyways, I'm trying to tell you that putting your wiener into a sheath hole is a similar miraculous experience where you realize I don't constantly need to be picking up at my testicles and taking them off my leg. I don't need these things flapping along in the wind. I don't need to have sweaty thighs. And the way that you can make those improvements is by going to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code RYM, and get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Biden expected to permanently ban oil drilling in some federal waters. And I already spoke about, listen, once you're voted out of office, you got to go out. And I mean, how much money did this guy make for the windmill people that he's got to fuck over the oil and gas drillers? You were specifically voted out in part because people are going, drill, baby, drill. I just want my energy and I just want things to be cheaper. I don't care about transing the kids. I don't care about the environment. I don't care about being nice to people. I just want to be able to buy eggs for $4 a carton and eat some bacon with it and have a nice breakfast. That's all I want with my life. You guys keep preaching these high agendas of making sure that Putin doesn't take over all of Europe, that Israel needs to bomb all of its neighbors so that it can remain safe. But at the end of the day, I just want bacon and eggs for breakfast at a reasonable price. And if that means that ExxonMobil's got to go out into the middle of the ocean and pull more oil out of the middle of the ocean so that people like Saudi Arabia can't keep jacking up their prices and energy will be cheaper and everything else will be cheaper, then God bless ExxonMobil going out into the middle of the ocean and sucking it out. And, I don't know if whales were deep diving into the ocean and they liked having that oil, but I'm taking it. And so Biden on the way out apparently is making it that a whole swath of waters will be undrillable, and apparently these laws aren't easy to reverse. Other things that he's doing is he's I think a $9 billion arms deal to Israel to make sure that they're well supplied in being able to bomb their neighbors for the next 40 years. And there's even some chatter about nuking Iran, which I mean on that one, talk about going bold on your way out is being like, shit, I haven't everything I tried, World War III yet. Maybe if we nuke Iran, we'll get that war going. And along the lines of the theme of the last episode, that all is revealed when it no longer matters, here we've got mainstream media, and I think this was about border crossings, and letting you know just how bad it was, which is the cleansing mechanism of them pretending like, well, no, of course we report, you can still tune in. I mean, they give you the information when it no longer matters. It was my complaint about Jon Stewart when he was on the Stephen Colbert show and it was hilarious jokes. I give him credit for the jokes, but he was making fun of anyone that believes that it wasn't a lab leak and that the COVID was caused by eating the penguins or whatever, the pendulins, the bats, and it's very funny. But the fact that he goes out there once the story is no longer relevant, it makes you think if you're watching these shows, well, no, they give me the good news. Like, you don't realize timing is everything. Imagine if you were investing in these storylines and then you find out once the shit is no longer relevant. That's not news. But it kind of cleanses itself because they get to pretend like, well, no, we got you guys the information. And so here you have, I believe, I don't know, was it CNN?
So Steve, let's start.
It was MSNBC. Finally letting you guys know just what's been going on at the border once Biden's out of office and it doesn't matter anymore. Let's give it a watch.
Your second chart where you highlight how the border and climate change were major issues in the year that was.
Yes, that's exactly right, of course, Jonathan. The border was not Biden's finest moment, frankly. You can see what happened here. And Trump is not wrong when he talks about how border crossings were quite low. They were running about 74,000 a month when he left office. And they, in fact, did shoot up. Some of it was some things Biden said and some ways that they put a moratorium, for example, on deportations. But, in fact, we did get up here almost to 300,000 a month. But what maybe people don't entirely know is that border crossings have come back down almost to where they were under Trump. They're running at about 100,000 at the moment. So we went up the hill and we went down the hill, but unfortunately that was pretty costly to buy.
As I said, all is removed once it no longer matters. All right, we got more show. We're cooking. We are cooking. Yeah, we're like take an intermission. Grab yourself a second muffin. All right. Next up is we I don't know why Thomas Massey was the only objector to keeping Mike Johnson in his job. And, of course, Donald Trump called everyone up and said, nope, that Mike Johnson guy is doing a perfectly good job of kissing my ass. And as long as he continues to kiss my ass, let's keep him in the job. I don't know if the next guy is going to be as good at kissing my ass as Mike Johnson is. And sure, he spent all the money. He sent it all to Ukraine. He did all the things that Biden wants, and he's no good. But he's kissing my ass. So for now, let's keep him. There you go. That's basically my rundown of what happened with last week's budgets. White House calls for Syria election as soon as possible in response to Jelani's 4-year timeline, which is, listen, buddy, we just partnered with you and we put you in, at least have enough trust that we'll rig an election on your behalf. We got to sell this thing. Don't tell me that it's 4 years. And on the ongoing story of our new partnership with these terrorists, Washington to aid restriction on Syria, because they're no longer a threat to Israel. So, we can make sure that that they have what they need. All right, you know what? That's the episode for now. Be on the lookout because we got more stuff coming. I am going to start doing some paywalled content. I got to figure out where I want to do it. I think at this point we'll probably go Patreon, but I'm open to suggestions. And looking to get Run Your Mouth, I think 3 times a week is probably what we're going to be doing. 2 public episodes, and then the leftover and call-in show for subscribers. I'm also open to possibly doing maybe a subscriber-based daily stream of just like kind of a rundown of the biggest stories. That's a little bit more just shooting from the hip, maybe shorter, and letting you guys almost just know what all the headlines are with some loose commentary. But I'm open to suggestions. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. If you guys have a preferred destination of if it's you'd prefer a Substack, you'd like a Discord, you guys tell me. But I am trying to raise some funds over here so that I can film a lot more sketches, possibly get a producer and spend more time just yelling in front of the camera and having other little minions behind the scenes dealing with all the horse shit so that we can crank more stuff out and try and get some of the good people over at the Shedcast Enterprises and some of the people that are working on some of the stuff with me behind the scenes paid. So be on the lookout for that. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. Open to suggestions. And we're going to do another episode later in the week, which, things, I don't like taking care of anything, but you got to step up your game. And so video intros was part of stepping up the game for this year, film the sketches and figuring out a paywall. So maybe even this Saturday will be first secondary episode, or maybe we'll do it publicly and then, I'll figure out where from next. But some topics that we've got lined up because, dude, I'm telling you, on every single episode, we get to the end. And I always have things left on the docket, but I've been yelling for an hour, and you go, let's save it for another time, and they get lost in the shuffer. So what do we got as leftovers? I don't know. It's enough episode for one day. That's it. Thank you for hanging out with us. First episode of the new year. I think it was a good one. We got to fix these little the little cat circles that are coming through. If you broadcast during the day, we'll take care of that. And, wait. Before we call it an episode, as I said, you got, for all the people that don't subscribe to the other channels, we'll close out the episode with this. I did film a sketch this week because I get the hiccups sometimes when I pop in too many zins, which, by the way, for the fans of this show, I'm gonna teach you guys a technique here for preventing zin hiccups, and then I'll roll this sketch, and that will be the episode. But I find the reason that sometimes the zins will give you the hiccups is because there's breakage and you end up with some of the inside content on the outside and it's too harsh. And so what you want to do is you take the Zyn and you flick it like it's a heroin needle, like you're about to give yourself some heroin, or you give it a nice shake like you were packing your thing of cigarettes. If you ever used to pack your pack, that's what you got to do with the Zyn. You got to give it a shake or you got to give it a flick. You get all the residue off of it. Now I can let that sit in my mouth for 4 days and I'm going to be all set. But like I said, more sketches, Robbie the Fire, all one word. You can catch them on the Twitters. You can catch them on the channel. But for all the people that watch on Spotify, we'll close out the episode with the sketch I put out last week. And that is it. Later, dude. The root behind.
I'll leave two. What I have here for you is an opportunity.
Are you a victim of Zyn-induced hiccuping?
Big meeting. I'll leave two. What I have here for you is an opportunity like the
Re-out with your one true love.
Gonna win my baby mama back. Baby, I think it's time.
Were you pulled over by the police?